No.
I only printed off about 10 of these, so if anybody's together, just get one. I don't know how many people are going to be here tonight. How you doing, Tom? No, I'm not on my toes tonight either. No, I can do this next week. I can pass these around too. If anybody wants any of the subject matter, they can email me and I can reply back to them. You were here the other night, last week? Oh, okay. We got a funeral for Savage. I don't think it was familiar. There's only 10, so if you're together, just take one. So everybody can have one. Well, folks, it looks like we're all here. How you doing? My name's Bob Hart. Just to give you a little bit of background about myself, I've been in the pro se litigation business for, I don't know, about 20 years now. I started out with, of course, when I divorced my first wife, and I was forced to handle all my domestic relations, and that's what got me familiar with the court systems and maneuvering through the court system. Uh, and then from there, I sued government 4 different times. Um, I battled with the DMV. I battled with, you know, big organizations like the California Franchise Board. Let's see, I gotta have one. And that, I think I only printed off 10, so let me see if I got any more or not. That's all I got. Anyway, a long time ago, I don't know, must have been about 15, 20 years ago, there was an organization called Right Way Law. Does anybody ever remember Right Way Law? Well, anyway, they're an outfit out of, I think it was Minnesota. And it turned out it was really wrong way law, but the thing about it was they got everybody moved. They got everybody interested. protecting their rights. And even though they come up with weird theories like the all capital letter name, fringe on the flag, UCC 1 filings, and if you know anything about that, well, it was all really just a bunch of bullshit. And it went on and on. We had law groups, law study groups where we'd all get together and we would converse about all of these different ways that we could protect our freedoms and liberties. And there was a time in my life where it got so complicated and there was so much paperwork and there was so much, it seemed like there was to learn about protecting your freedoms and liberties, that at one point I said to myself, this just can't be possible, that it's this complicated to protect your freedoms and liberties. And it came to me, of course all my things come to me at 3 o'clock in the morning, in the middle of the night. And it also came to me in one court hearing. I can't remember what was going on. It was some lawsuit or something. And this judge, his name is Judge Cherry, and he says to me, Mr. Hart, he goes, you've done a wonderful job in your pleadings and everything, blah, blah, blah. He goes, but if you want to be an attorney, why don't you hire an attorney? And I stared at him for a little while. And I didn't quite understand what he meant. But what he meant was that all legislative law has nothing to do with the private rights of the people. Legislative law and government has to do with government and relating consenting commerce. And I mean prisoners, corporations, licensed entities, military. But the private rights of the people are subject only to the common law. And my studies in common law are complete because it's so simple. And everybody thinks that the law is like some kind of vast, complicated thing that you have to hire attorneys and things, but that's only procedure, and that's only when it has to do with administrative process or dealing with government. So what I'm going to talk to you about tonight, first of all, the paper that I handed out, it's basic common law due process. And it works just like this. It's really simple. It's the same way you interact with your neighbors and people on the street. If Party A wants to assert a claim on Party B, okay, they send you a bill and they say you got to pay it. Okay? If you are going to assert common law due process to defend your rights, you must refute the claim and you must demand that they show proof of their claim to you. If you don't, by common law, you have left the field of battle, and you are basically admitting to them that they have a valid claim because you didn't refute it. It's a maxim of law. And that's how they trick everybody into volunteering their rights away. Now, if Party A fails to provide Party B with the proof of their claim, then by the rule of law, Party B has proof that Party A does not have a valid claim. And that's the way common law due process works. It's very simple. Now, if Party A does supply a valid, sufficient proof of claim, and now there's a pretty good indication that they have a preponderance of evidence that, yeah, you owe the money, unless you can prove otherwise. And that's what court hearings are all about. Okay, now, these are the important things to remember, and probably most people don't even understand this. The foundation of all law, the reason why law was created, was to stop somebody from forcing an obligation upon another with impunity. You cannot injure a person with impunity. An obligation is an injury. It doesn't matter whether you walk up and slap their leg with a stick, break their leg, if they're trying to force money out of them, if they throw a lien on your property, it's all an obligation. So, and nobody has the right to do this. Nobody. Government, nobody. The only reason they have the right to do this to prisoners is because prisoners have been convicted, most of the time by a jury of their peers, and now the government has jurisdiction over them because now they've lost their rights. Okay? We'll go on to the next, number 2. Common law, maxims of law, and common sense dictate that no person, entity, or government has the lawful right or authority to violate maxims of law or your rights to life, liberty, property, or the pursuit of happiness. And no person can escape the jurisdiction of common law lawfully. It's just the law. Maxims of law are immutable. I have a 3-page document here. I went through all the maxims of law in Beauvier's before I came down here, and I cherry-picked out a lot of the pertinent maxims of law. If you're interested, a lot of people aren't interested, but if you're interested, I gave out those little pieces of paper. You can just send me an email, tell me to send you these maxims of law, and I'll forward it over to you. But you can go to Beauvier's Law Dictionary, 1856, and it's on that paper I gave you. You can download the law dictionary, and you go right to maxims of law, and there's something like about 60 pages, all maxims of law, categorized in alphabetical order. If you go through there and you read all those maxims of law, that's your law education right there. If you go through, as you're reading it, if you don't understand, highlight it yellow, keep going, get through the whole thing. By the time you get done through them whole 60 pages, go back, start reading the ones you highlighted. And by that time, now you've got a better understanding of what law is all about and what your rights are. And you go through until you understand all of those maxims of law. And I can guarantee you it'll change the way you think about things. You'll all of a sudden have what I call a sovereign mentality. And then when somebody wants to force an obligation on you with impunity, you know it right off the bat. And we're going to go over what to do. Number 3, government entities only have the legal authority over government agencies, prisoners, consenting commerce such as corporations, licensed entities, military, etc. They don't have any authority over your private rights. Regardless of what some stupid judge might tell you, I've had judges tell me the stupidest things. I had a judge tell me one time, he says, "You can't be sovereign, only the Queen of England is sovereign." That's how stupid she was. That was the dumbest thing I ever heard a judge say. One of the dumbest things. If your right to life, liberty, or property is challenged, you must refute the claim. And that's what we're here tonight about. We have people wanting to force obligations on us with impunity. They don't have a valid claim. Otherwise, you probably know about it. And it doesn't matter whether they say it's some organization like CPUC, referring to Edison. CPUC has no authority over you. They only have authority over Edison. They're telling Edison that if you can get the money out of them, you have the right to bill them. That's what they're telling them. But they don't have the right to bill you because they're not giving you any product, any extra service, any extra electricity, and they are charging you, they are punishing you for not accepting the smart meter. They're not charging everybody uniformly. They're not just incrementally charging just a little bit more for their power with everybody. No, they want to punish the people who don't take this spooky, untested, smart. Now, I've heard all kinds of things. And personally, a lady called me tonight friend of mine, and she says ever since they put the smart meter in, she's having problems with her remotes. Uh, I've heard people say that they're, getting sick, headaches, things of that nature. Uh, One of the most important things to me is your security. These smart meters are bouncing signals to the next meter, to the next meter, to the next meter, to the next meter, until it gets within cell tower range, and it all goes to the cell tower. So that means that anybody with any savvy at all could read your readings and say, oh, well, they get up at a certain time in the middle of the night, take a piss, turn the light on. They cook their dinner at this time. They go to work at this time. Nobody's home at this time. Nobody's flipping anything. It's security. Now, and then there's the health aspect, okay? These meters give off a pretty good burst of energy about every 15 seconds, somewhere around there. And you can go on YouTube and you can watch some pretty good information. Some really knowledgeable people as engineers that know a lot about this stuff give seminars about the dangers of this microwave energy being bursted on you on a regular basis 24/7. And the range of how far away you can be, and they've already done the tests in San Francisco with cell towers and all the different illnesses and how close the cell towers are. It's long drawn out, but you just go on YouTube and watch it. But the point is that these things are obviously controversial, and they have no right to force this thing on you. And in my book, I think that they're set up, they're laying the groundwork so that the government eventually, once it's all set up and everybody's got smart meters, then they can do something that they're not telling even the power company. Because it's got a brain in there, it's got a chip, and it can do things. And they can shut your power off remotely. And I don't have any contracts with Edison to allow them to force this on me. So, my letter to Edison, just for an example. Well, let me finish out these last two. Okay, the private people cannot lawfully be subject to statute unless they consent either tacitly or expressly. And tacitly means that if they say, okay, we're going to punish you with this statute, and you don't say anything, you've tacitly admitted that you're subject to the statute. Let's say you get a ticket for going 5 miles over the speed limit, and you go into court and you say, oh, well, I wasn't really going 5 miles over the speed limit. Well, you just told the judge you're subject to the statute. You didn't say, I didn't create any damage. No harm, no foul. Where's the affidavit of the damaged party here? You see, in law, the way law is supposed to work is before a court can have jurisdiction, there has to be a damage. There has to be a damaged party, and there has to be somebody accused of doing the damage. Now, if you take away any one of those, they can't possibly have jurisdiction in common law. You take away the damage, what the hell are you there for? You take away, they haven't got anybody there that's being accused of the damage, what the hell are you there for? If nobody's been damaged, what are you there for? There's no jurisdiction. But that's not what they're trying to pull over the people. They're trying to convince the people, and it's the same way every tyrannical regime since the beginning of time has done it. They convince the people that if they make the rules, the people have to obey it, regardless of what the common law says. The law is maxims of law. And I can't impress on you enough how important it is to just download Bovier's Law Dictionary and just read all the maxims of law. Just read them. Hey, I read them all just today. It's not hard. Well, I was more scanning because I was cherry picking out the ones that I thought that everybody might need to fight this Edison and this CAL FIRE stuff. I guess, who here has got a CAL FIRE? Only one person's got the CAL FIRE, two people? Okay, so a bunch of people got the CAL FIRE. Okay. Well, I didn't know, I don't have an agreement with the assembly. I didn't know the assembly could charge me money, or the Board of Equalization. I don't even know who the Board of Equalization is. Now, how many people do you think will say, "Oh boy, I guess we got to pay it. They're gonna penalize us if we don't pay it"? How many people just write the check out? It's only $115 or $150. Just write the check out. Just get rid of it. It's not worth it. It's not worth the hassle, right? But it's your right. It's your money. You work for that money. They extort the money out of you. If it takes you a whole day to make $150, well, they got you working for them the whole day. Involuntary servitude. You just worked your job, but you gave the fruits of your labor to them. It's involuntary servitude. That's why involuntary servitude is in the Constitution. Well, I can't remember which amendment it is right now. I'm kind of unprepared. Anyway, the legal means pertaining to statutes, mandate law. If you see anything that refers to the word legal, you're talking about traffic codes, building codes, statutes. If the word lawful comes up, it means it's according to law or maxims of law or common law. And then number 7 here, just you can just download Bovier's Law Dictionary 1856, and it's all just public domain. Download the whole dictionary. It's really informative. And if you don't have a law dictionary, it's good to have one around. And if you don't understand something, I can't impress on you how important it is to look up the meaning of that word. It's amazing. I wrote a book called Citizen Slave, and the reason why I named it Citizen Slave was because citizen is synonymous with subject. But it's just not proper to call a citizen a subject in a franchised society. Okay? And in my book, I have all of the definitions when you follow the definition of citizen. This is in Black's Law Dictionary. And at the very end, you go around and around and all down and down. Dominion of the one who is submitted to the dominion of their government, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Well, at one point you're going to see slave. So it's pretty amazing that, in a nutshell, what we're doing is we're consenting, but we don't think we're consenting. We think we're doing it for the good of the country. This isn't World War II. Our country isn't at war. We're over there fighting for oil companies' rights to steal oil and build pipelines across Afghanistan. If you talk to any soldier that comes back from Afghanistan, he's going to tell you we're providing security for the pipeline crews. They're building 4 more pipelines across Afghanistan right now. And right after the first, right after 9/11, they went in there and decimated, did their shock and awe, and they got that first pipeline from Russia to the Caspian Sea, like right now, boom, man, they got it done because the Taliban wouldn't allow pipeline crews in there. I'm not in favor. I don't even know those people, but the point is, we're not fighting for the freedoms of people in America over there. All we're doing is getting our people killed and turning a lot of them into murderers. I mean, there are a lot of people that really like to kill people, and they'll go join the military. If you want to kill people, you go join the military because you'll get a chance to do it. And I don't have to show you about all the atrocities that have been happening in Iraq and Afghanistan on the people. lot of just senseless murders going on. Well, anyway, I don't want to get too far off. Okay. In your written response, let me read one of my letters to Edison. This was my letter. And I don't really want to give this letter out, but I have all the points in this paper that I gave you. And the reason why is because I want you guys to write your own letter. I want you guys to, in your own verbiage, and then you understand what you're doing. A lot of people, they'll just, copy word for word, put in their own info, and they don't really even understand what they're doing. If you don't understand what you're doing, then maybe you shouldn't try to fight, right? I'm trying to help you understand basically what common law due process is and how to fight. And you can only do it with common law due process. And it's the right of all people to use common law due process. Okay, now to whom this may concern, this legal notice is in regards to your letter dated to me, blah, 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 regarding service account number, blah. Said letter erroneously contends that I requested to participate in an opt-out program. Let me clarify your false contention in this matter. I did not choose to participate in any opt-out program. I refused to allow Edison to place a controversial smart meter on my home electrical panel. I prefer to keep things at my home the same as they have been with the exact same meter. If you have created some type of program associated with smart meters, that is your business, not mine. I am certainly not obligated in any way regarding this matter, and I have not received any additional products or services to warrant an extra charge. I do not have to inform you on the privacy and health dangers related to the smart meter, and I am sure you are well informed on the evidence concerning these dangers, and I'm sure they are. You seem to falsely contend that you have a right to arbitrarily charge me $10 per month and $75 per year because I will not allow a smart meter on my home. I am in absence of any contract or agreement that would allow Edison to force this obligation upon me. Please be aware that the CPUC has no lawful claim or authority to force the obligation upon me either. Please send me any information regarding any agreement Edison or CPUC may have that would give Edison a lawful right to force this obligation upon me. If you fail to provide this information and you persist in attempting to charge me these fees, you are in violation of due process of law where you are obligated to prove your claim. Lacking such evidence, by the rule of law, you are obligated to quit or be liable for damages. We suggest that you contact your legal department before this matter enters into legal litigation through the court system. Notice to agent is notice to principal. And then a warning of impending legal actions against you. You are here by lawfully noticed in bold letters. You want to let them know, you're willing to take these guys to small claims court. Hey, it's easy. Small claims court is all boilerplate. Just take them in. If you get thousands and thousands of people doing small claims courts actions on these guys, they're going to quit. They're just not going to charge you, and they're not going to say anything.
We came home, it was already in.
I'm sorry?
We came home and our meter was already.
Yeah.
We had no idea it
Well,
was coming.
that's because you didn't opt out ahead of time. So now you slip down the slope with a Teflon funnel.
No, they will remove them. They'll
Pardon me?
change them back. I've heard that they will change them back.
Yeah, well, hopefully they will.
So,
I-
in fact,
Guy the other day put our sticker on, said that you could opt out after the smart meters are on.
Yeah.
and one guy got the AT&T, Justin, he said his, meter was changed out without knowing it was all gonna happen, or,
Yeah, we had
anyway,
no idea.
he said, one week it was on there and he had to remove it. And the bill was higher than
Yeah.
the summertime.
I've heard
when
that too.
the AC's all going.
I've heard that too, that people get charged more money
Yeah,
when
I
the
heard
smart
that.
meters are in place.
So just
I don't
call
trust it.
Edison to have it removed.
Yeah.
Just call.
And also,
And I don't want to have to put my own meter on there, like after their meter, to prove it. I just don't want to go there.
Yeah.
also the guy that put the sticker on ours, he works for Edison, and I said, what are you doing, Matt? He said, I'm opting out.
Yeah. That's
What if you're opting out?
They know better.
But that's not right, that they can just come on my property.
I know.
Come home and it's there. We had
And
this.
he said one of the reasons they're opting out, a lot of them that work for Edison, it's taking jobs away. The meter
The
readers.
readers.
Yeah.
They gave a high percentage of their
in the Visalia, the December 23rd, they
Oh,
will no longer
Merry
need their
Christmas.
services.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Merry
and the whole thing is, we need jobs
And
here
that's
and
why
they're
they're
getting
doing
rid
this.
of us.
Well, if they want to put a meter reader out of business, all they really have to do is put a meter that just sends RF frequency, and they can put whatever their sending unit is on the pole that would collect from everybody and send it on in. They don't have to have these smart meters. They don't have to know what you're doing during the day. That's an invasion of your privacy.
Yeah, they
And
seem
when
to
we
have
can
gross
prove-
usage.
And all it takes is a lot of people just, hey, you know, it's only like less, well, what, $100 and some odd a year, but it's your right. It's your freedoms, you know. If you don't, hey, it's a hell of a lot easier doing this than it is rushing a machine gun nest in some foreign country, getting your head blown off. I mean, you're fighting for freedom. You're fighting for your freedom. The only way you can really defend the freedoms of the people is to defend your freedom first, because you can't really defend other people's freedoms. I've tried. You can't do it. I mean, maybe you could, but I mean, you get a bunch of mass of people together, it really doesn't do any good, you know. You defending each one, your freedom every time they want to force an obligation on impunity, anybody, your neighbor, your government, some entity like California Edison, anybody who wants to force an obligation on impunity, you have to recognize that, yeah, they are trying to force something on me, and I'm going to fight it. And if you don't, well, guess what? You just waived your rights. You
How
just
long does
gave
it
it
take,
up.
how long does it take before you waive your right? If you don't respond, how long?
How soon, how quickly?
Well,
do you respond?
it's all according to what the process is. In other words, say you don't opt out, right? And they come out and they put a smart meter on it. Well, you've lost your right. Now, if you can't get them to take back off, you just lost your right. Now you got a smart meter in your house. Now, say you opt out, and they say, okay, they start billing you, right? Well, if you don't go through this common law process on this sheet that I'm giving you, and make them prove their claim, you waived your rights. Now they can put it on your credit or turn your power off or whatever is going to happen down the line. And there's no time limit on it. You have to understand that as soon as you start waiving your rights, they start taking it. They start taking your rights. You see, that's the thing about common law. And this is the trick that has caused the government to have so much power over the people. People don't realize that if you don't rebut a claim, you have tacitly admitted. And that doesn't, I don't care what it is, a building code violation, traffic ticket, IRS, whatever. Now, there's big issues like property tax and income tax. And hey, I've sued government twice on income tax, and I've taken the property tax issue all the way to the Supreme Court. But unfortunately, the Supreme Court only hears 1% of the cases, and they were hearing Anna Nicole's case at the time, the important stuff. But see, here's the thing. Just because they dismissed my cases, they wouldn't allow me my day in court. I can tell you what their procedure is, and I'm in contact with pro se litigators all over the country, okay? And they do the same thing to everybody. You try to sue them on a real important issue, which is property tax is the bread and butter of the government. It is, and it's probably the most grievous rights violation going on in the country today, because basically they're charging rent on your property. If you don't pay it, they'll steal your property from you. I don't know what could be worse than that. But what they do is, it's all just procedure, okay? And what the government attorney will do, they'll just submit a case, and every case that they submitted had to do with corporations. Had nothing to do with the private rights violation. That's what my lawsuits were about, were rights violations upon a private person. Well, they would just submit a case that had nothing to do with your case, which violates maxims of law. And because the judge, there's judicial tyranny in this country, because the judge now has a procedure to hang his hat on. He says, oh, okay, well, we just dismiss this case. You take it up to the Ninth Circuit, that was Nevada, or do you take it to the Nevada Supreme Court? They just rubber stamp. Then you take it to the Ninth Circuit, they just rubber stamp. And you take it to the Supreme Court, they only hear 1% of the cases. You know, so the issue of property tax has to be done a completely different way. It has to be done in a way that they don't know it's coming until after they've joined. They never joined and they never will join. If you can get them to join, you got them. But that's a whole other issue. Anyway, let me just finish this. You want to put them on legal notice, warning of impending legal action against you. You are hereby lawfully noticed. This demand for evidence of claim will be used as evidence against you in future litigation. You are now required by the rule of law and due process to supply me with any and all information that would substantiate proof of your claim, or you must quit. If you intend to quit, please send me notification of such. Any attempt to damage me without providing me with documentation of proof of your claim will be met with civil litigation and liens against your organization. Please respond within 60 days of receiving this notice. And you want to put this in there. This and any further demands for my services to respond to your erroneous and unsubstantiated claims will be deemed legal fees. Your organization will be charged and billed at a rate of $250 per hour. That's what I charge for time and expenses preparing this notice and any future documentation and responses. If you relinquish your erroneous claim, this notice is courtesy. I'm sure that we can retain our good business relationship with no disputes. We try to do everything, business-like, and but here's the thing: if you start charging them money, they're forcing you to supply your labor to respond. Because if you don't respond, you waive your rights. They're forcing you to work for them. It's just like if you got a gardener out there mowing the lawn. If you don't pay him, he'll file. He'll take you to court. Okay. Well, it's the same thing. They're forcing. You can prove that they're forcing you to respond, and you charge them for it. Keep sending them the bill. Every time if you got to send another notice, send them a bill for it. Keep it adding up. And then when you go to court, you're going to attempt to prove that they forced you to supply the labor to do this. And now, you see, now they got something to worry about. Now they got a whole bunch of people charging lots of money. You see, pressure, 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 resistance, resistance, resistance. So just defend your rights. That's the important thing. Let's go down through this little sheet I gave you here. Issues to raise in your written response. Identify yourself and all documents and identification numbers on demands they have sent you. Make sure that everything's in there. There's nothing vague. They know exactly who you are and what you're contesting. Notice then that they have made a mistake and that you are not responsible for the claim, nor do you have any requirements, contracts, or agreements with them. Direct them to take you off their data bank as a debtor and rectify the erroneous bill. Warn them that they're being lawfully noticed and that they are required by the rule of law and due process to supply you with the evidence of their claim, or they are obligated to quit or be subject to damages. Demand a response within 30, 45, or 60 days. Make your choice. All depending on the situation, who it is. But that's generally the standard, 30, 45 days.
If you have an account with them, is that a contract with them then? To take power from them, is that a contract? You can have an account with Edison in this case?
I don't think I have any contract with them that would allow them to put a smart meter on my residence or charge me extra if I refuse. Especially on a controversial issue like the smart meter.
So then they can't remove power from your...
Well, if they do remove power, and you have to come up with the money, now you really got a claim. Because they denied you power and you were paying for your electricity. You just didn't pay for the smart meter fee that they said you owed that they can't prove. See, here's the whole thing. You can prove it through your paperwork that they don't owe you.
because they can't supply you with the information that proves their claim. Therefore, you have evidence to use in court. This is the whole thing about law that's so fascinating. You can force the law to move. What happens in law nowadays, all these attorneys get going, they just stagnate everything just kind of stays at a standstill, nothing really happens, nothing ever gets done, the only one making money is the attorneys. Everybody else is getting screwed. But the way law is supposed to work is, if I swear that something's true, it is considered a fact in a court of law unless somebody comes in and swears it isn't true. And they got to show some facts. And if they do come in with facts, it becomes a controversy to be adjudicated at trial. If they don't come in with anything, then what you've sworn to is a fact in a court of law. And that's maximum law. Unrebutted sworn testimonies can be considered a fact in a court of law. Unrebutted sworn testimony. Because there's nobody around to swear it's not true. And there's some, I didn't know how many people were going to be here, and it would have taken a lot of paper. And like I said, I can email you just these selected maxims that would pertain to this issue. And so if you're interested, a lot of people aren't interested, a lot of people take paper, throw away. But if you are interested, email me and I'll email you these selected maxims. Let's just finish up this, and I'm going to go through a few maxims on here just so you can get an idea of how important maxims are. Demand that they show proof of their claim. Now remember, this is a cheat sheet for you. Just keep this with you and read it over. Just make sure all these issues are in your response, and you'll do just fine. Demand that they show proof of their claim and the name of the person in government that has the right and authority to force the obligation on you with impunity. In parentheses here, you are not lawfully bound to prove them wrong. It's not your place to prove them wrong. It is just your place to prove that they don't have a claim. In other words, you don't have to prove that, like I said, you don't have to prove that they're wrong. But if you can prove they don't have a claim, now you win. They have nothing to fight with. And if you take them to small claims court, which that's what small claims court is supposed to be, then now they're going to have to hire an attorney or I think they're going to have to hire an attorney to show up to small claims court, and that's going to cost them $1,000. So they can get this $75 on you and $10 a month. So see, you have the upper hand. The most powerful thing is a pro se litigator that doesn't have an attorney and he's doing his own stuff because he doesn't have to pay an attorney. That's powerful. You've got lots and lots of leverage because now they're paying attorneys to come fight the issue and they don't have anything to fight with. Now, if they should send you some information that proves their claim, which I can't possibly imagine what that would be.
They're recording.
What?
They try to coerce you into agreeing to the charges.
Yeah. Threat, duress, and coercion.
Pardon?
Threat, duress, and coercion.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And also they're planning, you want to tell Marion about their plans?
Yeah, the opt-out fee initially is $75 now, but now the CPUC is holding meetings because they want to increase the monthly opt-out fee from $10 to $19.
Yeah. Well,
Now, and then what's it going to increase down the road, So it's going to keep.
now my question to you is,
Yeah.
do you have a contract with CPUC? Do you think the CPUC has any authority over forcing a claim on you? See, all they're doing is they're telling the power companies they have a right to bill you if they think they can force the claim on you. But that doesn't mean they
It's
have
a right
the
of
right.
opportunity to do it.
Yeah,
Not the right of law.
That's right.
The right of opportunity.
that's right. They're just telling the, they only have, the CPUC only has authority over Edison. They have nothing to do with you. Edison doesn't have a right to charge you, but they can, CPUC says you can bill them. See how many people volunteer. But now, if you refute the claim, and you do it properly, and like I said, it might take a little while to sink in, just keep reading it over, and when you do your claim, this is just kind of a guide here. Write your own letter, and put up some resistance.
I think some of the confusion comes from because people don't realize that electricity is a commodity like anything else. If you had bought a car from Ford and halfway through the contract, they said, we're gonna go put new tires on your car and charge you for it,
Yeah.
you'd be outraged. And it would be ridiculous on its face. But for some reason, because it appears to be, people think it's a government entity because it's a utility, it's not. It's a franchisee. If you look at it that way, then it makes it a little easier to understand where he's going with this for me. They can't change the contract midstream. So when you ask, what is your contract? My contract was that they will supply electricity at this rate
X amount
with
per
this equipment,
kilowatt hour,
not come in
whatever.
and change everything and then bill me for it.
Right.
So
They
just,
can't change the contract midstream.
But
Yeah.
they do it all the time with their rate increases and all this stuff.
but then again, we agree to pay it.
Soon as you
By not
pay it,
challenging
soon as you
it,
pay
right?
without
By not
resistance,
challenging.
Right.
Well, could you
you
find
wanted it by two.
if they do are gonna raise it, you know, they give you warning, we're gonna raise it such and such rate. If you fight it at that point,
Can you?
could you fight that raise it?
That's what you should be doing.
Well,
You're supposed to.
that's a whole other issue. You'd have to get into, I know how, the way they buy and sell electricity, it's like commodities, and they sell blocks of electricity and things of this nature. And if, the CPUC says, oh yeah, you have the right to charge us extra money, they can come to court and say, well, we can prove that we can charge them extra money because, the block of electricity that we bought, we'd be losing money if we sold it for this. Now, I don't know, I haven't really checked my contract to see if it had anything, had to do with rates or anything like that, but that's a whole other issue. But the whole thing about this smart meter is, first of all, it's controversial. There's way too much controversy on all the issues that we already talked about. They're not giving you anything extra. And they're charging you, the opt-out people, when they're not charging everybody else. They're selecting us and they're punishing us. They have a right to do that. And so, those are the issues.
Also with the smart meters, we have one at a property at the coast, through PG&E. It's been on 1 year, and this summer we received a notice that they're changing the way they bill, so they're going to time of day sensitive billing.
Yep.
As opposed to
Right.
what you used to.
I knew that was coming. Several years ago, I got a survey from Edison asking how much extra we would pay if our power went out in different time frames. And so I knew this was gonna be coming, and it was, to me, an evil survey, so I just kept it. But, that's what it's all about. They already had this all in motion. And so that's why the rate increases and everything. Yeah, and next they'll be shutting it off whenever they want. Whenever they need an infusion of money, they'll shut it off and say, okay, you wanna turn it back on, pay this amount. So that's coming down the pipe too.
I wouldn't doubt it. But the point is that they don't need to know
So,
when you're using power, what time of the day and all this. They don't need all that information. The information that smart meter is given is unique to your house. You're creating that data. And that data can be used by anybody for anything. It can be used by criminals. A criminal would know exactly what your living patterns were. They would know exactly when you went to work when nobody was there at your house. And that would increase their odds on not getting caught tenfold.
Verizon's got just patented a smart DVR that has, I think it's got a camera and a microphone that watches you, listens to your conversations in your house. If you're having a fight with your wife or husband or whoever, the next thing you know, you got commercials about family, counseling and stuff.
They're also smart shipping all new appliances.
Yeah.
So if you buy a dishwasher, an oven, a microwave, they're all having chips that can talk to these meters.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
You can talk through a 110 line. A 110 line will send a signal. It's just a difference of potential. It's still a line, and you can send a frequency. And so unless you've got a lot of juice going through a big motor, that frequency goes through that line just like everything else. And it's just like I got a wireless remote on my pool light. Well, it doesn't go through the air; it goes through the 110 line.
Right.
And they didn't, it's hard to say what they're going to use this for.
Their
But
potential is huge.
yeah, the potential is
It's not
huge.
gonna benefit.
Yeah, it's
Not
not
good for us.
Well, you're hearing the president talk about creating the smart grid across the United States, so it's coming from, the
And see,
echelons
if
of
it's
our
called
governments.
smart, is that us saying we're dumb?
Yeah.
That's smart? See?
Yes,
Why
it
are you
is.
smart? Why aren't we smart and that's dumb? Why are they calling us smart?
It's like 1984.
Yeah, that's like the Federal Reserve.
That's a whole
Same
other
thing.
issue.
It's all in the name. It's like you're not going to go to a restaurant that's called the Greasy Spoon. You're just not going to pull up there. It's all in the name.
On this new process, is there anything to do against people, majority vote?
The majority vote.
Yeah, the majority vote something against you.
People don't understand that when you vote, you just vote for how your government's going to run and relating consent and commerce. It has nothing to do with private rights. Nothing. There's nothing in the voting process that has anything to do with your private rights. It all has to do with how a citizen wants his government to run. There's a misconception there.
Well, what about Obamacare? If that hurts people,
Totally fraud. Well, what they're doing is they're just
take them to court?
they're getting them to do business.
Oh, that's true.
They're just forcing the businesses to do this. I know they've said some stuff that, everybody, all the private people are going to have to,
But at some point it's coming due.
I haven't heard of anybody being forced into that.
So if your corporation doesn't have any employees or people involved, because it's all done through, let's say, internet and e-commerce, how do they even bill you for that? How do they, on the Obamacare, on the insurance, how do they even pull you in? My corporation has no employees, no people. It's all electronic. It's all done over commerce.
You don't have any contract with them anyway.
Yeah. So how are they even gonna play it? How are they even gonna suck me into that?
Well, see, the whole thing about a corporation is,
They
You're
can suck my
basically
corporation all day they want. It's not me.
yeah, right.
And my corporation doesn't have people,
That's
so
right.
suck it up.
Yeah, right. Well, that's one way to do it. Yeah, kind of like an LLC.
That's exactly
It's so
what it
far
is.
down the line that who are you going to charge, right? But Obamacare, that's a whole other issue. But
Well, we have to have more forums like this I know this is about the CAL FIRE and the smart meter right now.
But it applies to all.
But we need to do this over and over, and especially in small communities where we can, a little bit of people, doing what you said, take them down for $1,000, $2,000 in small claims.
yeah,
You sting them enough, all those bee stings are gonna swell up and die.
if just the people in this room right now all took Edison to court, just took him to small claims court, unless they had some kind of crooked thing going on with a judge down there, where they could dismiss a whole thing at one time, it's gonna be a major thorn in their side. Just the people in this room.
What's it cost to file a small claims court?
If you went home and you talked to all your neighbors who didn't want smart meters, you said, okay, well, here, you shared this information, and you said, you shared the letters that you wrote, and everybody else started taking Edison to small claims court to prove, because see, here's the deal. You're gonna prove through your private process with them, your common law due process, you're gonna prove that they don't have a claim. When you go to court, you're gonna say, the claim is gonna be, they're trying to force this claim on me, and they refuse to show me any proof that they have a right to this claim. And that's all you're in court for. You're not gonna get convoluted, you're not gonna talk about the dangers of smart meters and this and that and the other. It's just a simple fact that they're trying to force a claim on you, and they're not willing to show you proof, so they are violating due process of law. It's simple due process. You know, you owe me money, prove it. That's it. And because you're sending them notices and you're sending them certified mail, you can prove everything.
So if you've already paid, say, the initial opt-out fee, and you've paid the monthly fees because, you know, you're further in this process,
You can still
You
do your
have recourse
process and get the
to-
money back, or try to get the money back in small claims court.
okay?
So would
But-
I'm sorry, would we get billed for having them change it back?
No, you have to do the same thing again, so you don't have the right to bill me for it.
Let them know you're not
Changing it
gonna
back.
stick it, you just keep fighting.
To do, but
Well, if you didn't ask them to put the meter on, then
We did.
you didn't,
They're forcing
how could you
somebody
be
else.
liable for a charge, realistically? I mean, that's the way I think about it. And, it all boils down to, nobody has a right to force an obligation upon another with impunity. Nobody has a right to injure somebody with impunity. If you have a claim on somebody, you gotta prove it. You just can't arbitrarily start sending somebody bills and expect them to pay it.
So I've seen letters drafted, in trying to work my way through it. If you own a business and you are set up with SCE as a business customer, you are not allowed to opt out on your business meters.
Right.
It's only residential.
Yeah.
So,
According to their rules.
according to their rules.
Their procedures.
So if you wanted to opt out and, you know, pursue something like this to get an opt-out in your home or that situation, I've seen letters drafted where they're saying there would be a usage fee, should you put something, you know, a kind of a threatening letter to them saying there would be a usage fee if you put this on against our wishes, or a rental fee.
That's a good point.
Charging for the spin.
I hadn't really thought about that,
That's a
but
good idea.
$500 a month here?
5,000 a day.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that better.
It's like, yeah, I've seen people say 10,000
Yeah.
a day.
the whole thing is, you just reverse the tables on them, and
Well,
that's what
because
you do.
they're
Be
saying
creative.
businesses, you know, they want you to be on the grid on Sierra Drive so that, you know, they can put that grid down Sierra Drive
Yeah.
for the smart meters to communicate with each other.
Yeah. Well, it all boils down to resistance, and it's a small price to pay. And you gather your evidence package, you get your evidence package together, you take it to small claims court. And it's really pretty easy. A small claims court, I don't know how much they charge now, $35 or something like that, with a little bit of time. They're gonna have to hire an attorney to show up for them. And, oh, wait a minute, I think a small claims court, I don't know if attorneys are allowed. It's all just part of the experimental process, you know.
Well, ideally, it would seem that if you were to draft these letters, hopefully they would back down before
Right.
you ever had to go to court.
Well, like, I wrote the California Franchise Board wanted to charge me a bunch of money on some bogus claim. I sent them a letter, they rolled right over. Sent a letter back saying, there'll be no further actions this time. Rolled over just like that. Maybe Edison will do the same thing. I don't know.
Especially if they get those letters.
We're right at the beginning of this process. This whole smart meter thing is basically uncharted territory.
it would sure be fun, just as a little town community project, you know, just to go play like that.
Get us
$35 education.
You know, some
for
people
civic
that
law.
may not be able to write that kind of letter, we kind of help them out, but still make it unique to them. So they don't see a form letter coming in.
Right.
Right, yeah. Well, that's why I didn't want to distribute out my personal letters, and I gave you all the stuff the points that you want to make in here, so all the letters look different. And, because if they see a form letter, well, they go, oh, I already know what this is about,
Yeah.
you know.
But it'd be a good guide for some people to at least see the concept that they need to follow.
Or just talk about it over and over, whether, you know, Facebook or whatever, have it out there.
Well,
this kind of stuff.
we can throw sample letters up on the website.
Yeah. Now, if you use all of the stuff that's in this letter here,
This one.
okay, everybody's letter is gonna be different. And it's gonna cause you to think. And it's gonna cause you to think in terms of understanding common law due process. And it's really important for protecting your freedoms and liberties. You have to understand it's the only way. And this isn't new. Common law due process has been around since the beginning of law. It is the foundation of law. It is law. All statute, any government written law has to abide by common law, even though it doesn't. But the only reason it doesn't is because nobody knows enough about the common law to protest
Let them get away with it.
and stop it. And that's what we're trying to do tonight. We're trying to put up with resistance. We're trying to, like I say, we just follow the common law process. It's the only way. There's no fringe on the flag. There's no
Yeah.
nom de guerre, all this
Straw
old
man
crap,
stuff,
that it's just common law due process. And it's been around since the beginning of time. And I hope that I can send you guys on a path for understanding common law due process, and I can't overemphasize to just download Bovier's Law Dictionary. It's the most comprehensive list of maxims of law that was used by the Supreme Court in 1856. Okay, Bovier's Law Dictionary was the dictionary that the Supreme Court used in 1856. Now, Bovier, you can go and read about Bovier too. He was a pretty smart guy. He was a lawyer, and then he decided to write this dictionary because he realized that all the law dictionaries were kind of inept, and so he wrote this great law dictionary. Now, here's what they've done. This is how powerful maxims of law are. What they've done in all of the dictionaries, law dictionaries since then, they have scattered the maxims of law all throughout the law dictionary to where you can't really find them, except you find it by accident. There's not a comprehensive list like Bovier's. And another interesting thing, okay, Black's 4th and Black's 6th edition, if you look up the definition of citizen, it clearly states that it's one who submits to the dominion of the government, blah, 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 and it basically says you're a slave, right? Black's 7th, you start trying to follow it, they've changed all the definitions to where you can't find it. Really amazing. Black's 4th is the annotated edition. Black's 6th is, it doesn't have a lot of the case law in there. And Black's 7th, you start looking up citizen, they've changed the whole thing. I was totally amazed because I couldn't find a Black 6th dictionary, so I bought a Black 7th for my son. I gave it to him as a gift, right? And I was sitting there in his house and I started looking up citizen. Like, holy Christ, you can't follow it anymore. But a citizen is different than a countryman. And the same as in Rome. There was a difference between a citizen and a countryman. Friends, Romans, countrymen, or I can't remember exactly, but there's a difference between a citizen and a countryman. And a citizen is one who is submitted to the dominion of his government. And I go in there and look up dominion, submitted. Just start looking up all the definitions in the definition. And it clearly says that you have tacitly, in other words, if you go in there and a judge says, are you a U.S. citizen? And you say, yes. And you don't, he's going to take silent judicial notice that you've submitted to the dominion of all the statutes. He didn't have to tell you that you're waiving your rights. He didn't have a duty to tell you that. And if you go into, like, Chase traffic court, I was amazed one day. I was sitting there with my son. He was in there for a traffic ticket. And I was watching all these people, and this judge was sitting there. Are you sure you want to plead guilty to this? And he was just, I could see the amazement on his face, and everybody was just volunteering their rights away, one right after another. And people will go up there thinking this judge, it's really not even a judge, he's just he's just an administrative hearings officer, and everybody's like groveling up in front of him like he's some kind of supreme god or something gonna, and they don't understand that they're waiving their rights, and they don't know they're waiving their rights. So it's really important to understand the principles that we're talking about here tonight. It's been lost in our society, and until society understands how to protect their rights and what law is, we're going to continue to spiral into this rights violation thing, where eventually, we're going to have soldiers coming through here, drones coming through and firing on people, and I mean, I don't know what you're going to do when you can't even shoot a drone out of the sky, because that camera on that's going to know exactly where the gunfire comes through, and it instantaneously fire's going to come back down on you. I mean, it's going to be worse than Terminator, the first movie Terminator, where the silver robots are coming across the landscape, and there's nothing anybody can do but run. So it's in my book. You have to learn to protect your rights, and this is just one small part of it. Is fighting this Edison and this Cal Fire. Make sure that you stand firm and take it as far as you can take it. And I'm going to take it as far as I can take it. And if everybody else does, and all your friends do, and maybe there's other meetings going on, and other people are inspired to fight it, and it just keeps on going, that's all we can do. Because if we don't fight it, they're going to roll over us quick.
As far as that CAL FIRE, do you send it to CAL FIRE or the Board of Equalization?
You send it to the same people that are billing you. Knows the agents, knows the principal.
I say excuse me.
They're billing you, not Cal Fire.
Their money, the captain here was like, I'm not for it.
And they're the one that has to send you the proof of their claim. And as I said, in this here, let me finish this out here. Okay. Notice then that if they continue to force the obligation without supplying proof of their claim, that they are violating the law, due process, and subject to litigation damages. If they claim some other entity gave them the right, demand the documented proof that that entity has the right to force the obligation on you. If they claim it is the law, demand documented proof that the law pertains to you, and the person that wrote the law has the authority over you. In other words, somebody had to write the law. Who is this? Or is this some kind of shining, godly ordained person that can just wave his hand and say, all of the citizens will be charged now? I don't know how it could possibly happen lawfully. I mean, without a contract, according to common law, you have to have an agreement with somebody. Nobody has the right to force an obligation with impunity. And the sooner everybody understands that, the faster we can get back control of this government. And just fighting this Edison thing and this Cal Fire thing, that's just a small little piece. But you're just one little piranha trying to take down the water buffalo. We get a bunch of piranhas, we get a lot of piranhas in there, and they're going to go, wow, man, this is just like, it's costing us a fortune here. We'll just forget about the fee. Right? And anybody who wants to opt out, let them opt out, Because in reality, this fee isn't helping them at all. It's just a control issue. It's just a control issue to get people to submit. There's so many people who say, well, I don't want to be charged. I got friends that say, well, I don't want to be charged $75 and $10 extra a month. Mm-hmm. I'm not, they're afraid,
It's conditioning.
Yeah, they're conditioned,
It's worse
And
than Nevada. It's like
only 10% of the people fought in the Revolutionary War.
Startup or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, in, what was it, 95? I forget what it was.
And almost 50% of the people were loyalists. And that means that, and I don't know if you ever read the book 1776 or get the audio book, riveting. Well, we came so close to being English, it was amazing. If it wouldn't have been for Washington coming across the Delaware that night in the frozen, with taking their horses and stuff over a frozen river on little barges in the middle of the night to get the Hessians, right? And you wanna know how many of our guys died? 2. And you wanna know why they died? They froze to death. They froze to death. And they went in there, caught the Hessians when they were all lounging on Christmas or whatever it was, and that was the turning point of our country. Well, you know, I would much rather be doing this than coming across the Delaware on an icy night and trying to attack somebody. I would much rather do this. Anyway, okay. So don't assume anything. All claims have to have documented proof. There's no way they can, it's just the way it is. No, you gotta show me the documented proof. And they can't show you documented proof. It's not there. And once you prove that they won't send you documented proof, you have a claim in court. You just gather all your evidence package together. Once you got your evidence package, take it to court. And let them know that it is their responsibility to prove their claim against you. This is a maximum of law. When you read the maxims of law, you'll understand. And one of the handy things to do is, when you're going through the maxims of law, the ones that you think you can use as an authority, and you can use maximum law as authority, and it comes right out of a law dictionary. Cut and paste it over into your Word program, and get your list of all the maxims of law that you can use for authority. And the ones that I can send you is a lot that pertain to this. I cherry-picked them out especially for you guys, okay? And I can send it to you digitally, you can send it to other friends, and we can get this out. Notice them that by them asserting the claim against you, they have forced you to supply your time, labor, and resources to respond, and unless they quit, they will be billed so much per hour for all the labor they are demanding from you. And that's what's going on, and you can prove that. Be professional, courteous, businesslike in all your communications. Send a bill with all consecutive demands to respond. I wouldn't send it with the first one, but any consecutive ones, start sending them the bill. If everybody starts sending them bills, like what you were talking about, it's going to make a bigger difference when they know that they're liable, because they're forcing all these people to work for them to protect their rights. Because if you don't, you admit, you waive your right. So you have to fight. And that's one of the things in law nowadays. People end up fighting, but they don't end up charging. It's really important to keep charging. Keep an ongoing record of your time for evidence and billing purposes. Keep an organized file in chronological order and keep it up to date. Always mail certified return receipt. Proof of service is a critical part of the evidence package. If they fail to show proof of their claim and continue to assert the claim against you, you now have evidentiary proof that they are violating the law by forcing an obligation without providing proof of claim and demand. You can take them to small claims court on smaller amounts, of superior court for the larger claims. Everything in California is pretty much boilerplate, and they're relatively easy to maneuver through the court system. You simply prove that they have lost by failing to supply valid proof of their claim when demanded. Don't get off track. That's the only thing you're trying to prove in court. You don't want to get off on anything else. You want to muddy the water. You demanded that they prove the claim. They will not send it to you. They've lost. Now, unless you got a crooked judge, you're going to win. And then you might get paid for your labor too, whatever you want to charge. I know what you charge $250
So if
an
you're
hour.
a slow reader in your research, you could really get a bill.
What's that?
A slow reader while you're doing your research, it takes a long time.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Does this time count?
Oh, yeah.
Whatever you feel it's worth to you.
Preparing for the battle.
I would say, yes, ma'am, this counts. Yes, ma'am.
I give them a break. It's just an hour for this first letter. $250.
Break.
You know. And the last thing, if you get an honest judge, you should prevail in defending your rights and liberties, your money and your property. Okay, I'm going to read you something here about maxims of law. Maybe none of you even know what a maxim of law is. But maxims of law are the basic principles and foundations of law that are the underlying principles principle what all written law is created by. And here's some definitions right out of Bovier's maxim. An established principle or proposition, a principle of law universally admitted as being just and consonant with reason. Maxims of law are somewhat like axioms in geometry. Uh, they are principles and authorities and part of a general customs or common law of the land, and are of the same strength as acts of parliament. When the judges have determined what is a maxim which belong, and then it talks about jury, it's not important. Maxims of law are holding for law, and all other cases that may be applied to them shall be taken for granted. Now, the application of a maxim to the case before the court is generally the only difficulty. Now, this is what you pay attention to. You'll see, you can read this in Bowers. The true method of making the application is to ascertain how the maxim arose and to consider whether the case to which it is applied is of the same character or whether it is an exception to an apparent general rule. So basically, the maxims you're going to use for your authority basically have to pertain to the situation. The following is a list of symbols. Okay, I'll just read a couple of them to you that I cherry picked out. Regarding law, a maxim is so called because its dignity is chiefest and its authority is most certain, and because universally approved by all. Let's see, another one, in default of law, maxim's a rule. Another one, law is the dictate of reason. He ought not be heard who advances a proposition contrary to the rules of law. Now, whenever they're talking about law in maxims, they're talking about common law. They're talking about maxims of law. They're not talking about government mandated law. You want to get that clear so you can understand what they're talking about. The construction of the law works not an injury, and that's what they're trying to do with this foreign forces smart meter. They're creating injury to you. Okay, the power which is derived cannot be greater than that from which it is derived. Error of law is injurious. The deed of one should not hurt another. That which is indefinite or endless is reprehensible in law. The laws themselves require that they should be governed by right. Fictions arise from law and not law from fictions. And what they're talking about fiction, and they're talking about administrative law. It's a fiction. Nothing inconvenient is lawful. There is no disputing about the rules of law. What is done contrary to law is considered as not done. No one can derive any advantage from such an act. Things introduced contrary to reason of law ought not be drawn into precedence. It is a miserable state of things when the law is vague and uncertain. Force is inimical to the law. The ability to know is the same as to know. The maxim is applied to the duty of everyone to know the law. So in other words, that old saying, ignorance of the law is no excuse, it doesn't mean ignorance of a man-made law. It means ignorance of the common law is no excuse, because what it means is you don't have any reason, so you're not thinking, you can't reason, so that's just your fault. So ignorance of the common law is no excuse. But there are maxims that pertain to people that make mistakes and they don't understand. But in every contract, whether nominate or innominate, there is an implied consideration. The laws consist not of being read, but is being understood. So that which is permitted only at a loss is not permitted to be done. These are some of the things you're really going to have to think about when you start reading through these maxims of the law. It's a real education, and it's just like anything that you learn. You don't realize you're learning it, but it makes a difference in your overall perception of things, because now all these little things that you've learned cause you to have a sovereign mentality. An act done by me against my will is not my act. consent makes the law. A contract is a law between the parties which can acquire force only by consent. So in other words, you can consent, and that's what they're hoping you're gonna do, is consent. And it's a maximum of law. If you consent, you consent. He who may consent tacitly may consent expressly. So in other words, if you consent tacitly, it's the same as, they can just keep going, mowing you down, and it's just like you consented expressly, because you didn't rebut. It's super important to understand that concept of consenting and waiving your rights without you knowing. That's the basis of most of the problems. And I hope that all of you can really get a grasp on this. Anyway, that's just a lot of the, I mean, I got 2 more pages to read here, but, he who errs does not consent, and then every consent removes error. So that forces you to think about what they're meaning. See? Now remember, these can all come out of Bowier's Law Dictionary. This is what judges read back in those days.
Yeah, is a vote of the people, though, documentary evidence?
The vote of the people is only
I mean,
how the government is run.
they subject that as evidence to refute a claim against you.
The people can't, well, I use this example. If the majority of people voted that they could hang you behind a pickup, could they still do it? No. And if they said, if the majority of people said, we want to take your house, could they do it? No, they can't do it. That's one of the misconceptions, is people think that voting has something to do with their private rights. Voting has nothing to do with your private rights. It's only how you as a citizen want your government to operate. That's the only thing voting is for. And it's all crooked anyway. There's no way you can verify that your vote was counted correctly, because there's no confirmation number, there's no statement with all the confirmation numbers and how each one was doing. So you can't take your receipt with your confirmation number on it, or one that you found on the ground, non-counterfeitable receipt, go to the statement and look up the confirmation center and say, well, yep, that receipt was counted correctly. Yep, that was counted correctly. Because guess what? You just get to one that's not counted correctly. You got a real problem. That's like your calculator not coming out right. I mean, could you imagine your calculator not working right? But all of a sudden, man, they have a real hard time counting these votes. They're real slippery. There's just something about this voting process, you know? Now, you can't cheat a Keno game, and all they got to do is run the voting just exactly like a Keno game. You got a confirmation number. You just leave out the good-looking girl that brings the Keno ticket back.
Why?
Huh? Well, that's what I say. You know? But I mean, in Keno, okay, you mark your ballot. You give it to the Keno runner. She goes over there. She brings you back a receipt. Now you know exactly who you voted for, what ping pong balls you voted for. Okay? Now they play the game. They play the game in front of you. And they have a statement of every game they play. So if you happen to leave the casino and come back a week later and say, hand them the receipt, well, they just go into the records and they can tell you whether you won or lost. You see? But they can't do that with voting. And believe me, I've asked to register a voter in a crowd of 1,000 people at a meeting. I asked her, I said, how come the ballots don't have confirmation numbers and statement so we can all verify that our ballot was counted correctly? You talk about dumbfounded. And it was Catherine Ferguson. She was crooked, and I don't want to get into that, but she just looked all blank scared. Well, you know what she said? Well, we just don't do it like that. We just don't do it. Yeah, I know. That's what we're talking about. Right? Well, anyway, it was just, and then that was the end of that subject, and then he went on to, muddying the water and getting people all confused. Let me just read a couple more here. I'll find some important ones here. The proof lies upon him who affirms, not on him who denies. In other words, if you're accusing somebody of doing something, it's up to you to prove that he did it. It's not up to him to prove that he didn't. The burden of proof lies upon him who affirms, not he who denies. He who proves must recover most. He who proves most recovers most. What is clearly apparent need not be proved. In other words, we all need air to breathe. There's no reason to talk about it. Chattels justly possessed cannot be lost. We all own our property. Nobody has the right to take it. Every man's house is his castle. The habitation of each one is an inviolable asylum to him. Anyway, there's a lot of really, really good ones. What is mine cannot be taken away without my consent. Things which belong to a person ought not be separated from that person. A custom introduced against reason ought rather be called a usurpation than a custom. Okay? There's a lot of really interesting stuff. And it goes on of all kinds of things. It goes on about children and this and that and contracts and it's fascinating when you start reading all these maxims of law. And it don't take long. Like I said, I read through them all just today. And well, actually, I didn't get through the whole thing. I only got through about 5/8 of it, but I got most of it down. And but at any rate, I gave you those little pieces of paper, and I'll let you guys. Well, I only got 2 copies. Somebody can take these if they like. But if you contact me by email, I'll send you this list right here, and hopefully I will crack the eggshell, and a little bit of light is coming through on properly how to fight this oppression that they're coming up with. And all this oppression started with, like, the loyalty of people during World War I and World War II, you know, where the countries were fighting, and it was a whole other ball game back then. And then they got the traffic codes, right? And then they started convincing people that, well, you know, you can read, I got a statute, it's a California statute, and it clearly says that an officer cannot give a ticket unless a person is involved in an accident, drunk, and blocking the roadway, which means that he's so drunk, he's causing a problem, right? And, but people, what they're doing is they're saying, oh, we don't need the damage anymore. You don't have to create a crime now. Now you just have to violate the statute. And everybody's buying it.
Right.
Because nobody realizes that they don't have, that you have to create damage for them to have jurisdiction to start to prosecute you. You have to be involved in a crime, which is a damage. It could have to be either actual damage, or it has to be a danger to the public, or a nuisance. Because a danger to the public and a nuisance is a damage in itself. Because say you're blaring your music loud every night and everybody's trying to sleep, well, you're keeping these people up, and you're damaging their peace. And and that was part of the thing that muddies the water in people's minds. That, well, you know, we're going to have people killing people all the time, driving down the road and killing people. Well, you know something? When you're involved in an accident, then you start nailing them. If they get drunk and they get in an accident, then you nail them. Then that's when you force them to have a driver's license, and you put the controls and restrictions on them, because they've already proven that they're a dangerous society because they've hurt somebody, they've made damage. That's when they have jurisdiction. But all these people, now they just got a revenue scam going where, you know, you have 3 beers and you leave the bar, and all of a sudden you're a .09, and now we're going to ruin your life. We're going to charge you about $10,000, and then we're going to make you jump through hoops for the next 5 years, you know. And the only reason they got to do it is everybody volunteers. Nobody said, hey, where's the affidavit of damage party? Where's the damage? Nobody knows about that statute. I can send you that statute too. But that's what it's all about. And I'm in the process of writing another book that clearly tells people exactly what's going on and how to learn this stuff effectively. I'm about 1/3 done, and it's a real hassle writing books. I'm not really an author. I know the subject, but I'm not really an author. It took me 3 years to write the first book. And, some people can write a book in a month. But I've got things to do. But I want to get this out, and when I get it done, you'll probably know about it, and hopefully you'll buy the book and educate yourself on how to understand the common law. See, this is the most important thing. Imagine where our civilization would be right now if we could not read or do math. We would be living in mud huts. We couldn't transfer an idea from one generation effectively to the next. Okay? And all we learned was the ABCs. It was real simple. There's 26 characters, right? We learned how to read, right? And math, we just learned to count from 1 to 10. And then that just multiplied, right? And just that little simple thing. Now, imagine this. Imagine you came to a society that didn't even know what reading and math was. And you tried to tell them how it would transform their society if they learned how to read and do math. And they're all living in mud huts, okay? They're not going to understand. They're going to say, crazy. Learn this and that's going to transform our society? But it did. It brought us all what we have today. Well, guess what? When it comes to understanding your rights, it's the same as if we don't know how to read and write. It's the same thing. We are socially inept. We do not know how to socially interact properly. We do not understand that you can't force an obligation upon another with impunity. And we don't know how to assert that. But if I have anything to do with it, there will be a curriculum for understanding your rights and the law. And it's as simple, I'm going to tell you something. It's as simple as the ABCs. When I started out this thing, it seemed so complicated. I tried to figure out, what was this common law? And I got Copler's common law pleadings, and there's no documents out there that directs you right to it, simply into a simple curriculum. It's not out there. It's lost. It got lost in society somehow. It's all just scattered around from here to there, and you got to pick up the pieces and put it all together. It's like little puzzle pieces. I come in here and I just threw a bunch of puzzle pieces out on the floor, and that's all you're looking at, just a bunch of puzzle pieces. Nobody ever put the puzzle pieces together and look at the picture. Once you put all the puzzle, you've got a simple curriculum for understanding the law. Now you can understand, exactly when somebody's forced an obligation on impunity, and the people in government will start to understand, yeah, we are forcing an obligation on impunity, because they got neighbors, and their neighbors going, why do you let your superior do this, blah, 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 it'll also start changing. But until we get this down, we're going to have tyranny thriving in this country like it is right now, and we all know it is. And it's a really, really bad deal. We've got things going on, man. They're killing people all over the globe. They're causing mass bummer on lots and lots of people. And they're throwing people in jail that have done nothing wrong. They're smoking pot or whatever. They're throwing people in prison for that. I mean,
I did 2 days in jail for refusing to pay a seatbelt.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Because I said I owed my person, and I even wrote everybody in the city.
I've known people too. They sat in jail because of a seatbelt ticket.
I said I owed my person, I'm an adult. The officer again lectured me like he didn't know what I was talking about, of course.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you a true story. I got a ticket for expired plates. I hadn't registered my car in a couple of years. The cop pulls me over on Boulder Highway, and he goes, and I said, what's your problem cause for pulling me over? And he goes, you got expired plates. I go, that's not a probable cause, that's a statutory infraction. He goes, I've been on the force for 3 years, I think I know what probable cause is, right? So he says, when he writes out the ticket, I said, what are you going to do if I don't sign this ticket? And he says, well, I'll throw you in jail. I'll take you to jail. I go, okay. And I actually wrote my name. I should have wrote refused to sign and made it look like a signature, but I didn't. It didn't really make any difference. So I sent the notice back. I sent the ticket back to the Las Vegas traffic court stating that the officer forced me, or, he threatened me with jail if I didn't put my hand on this ticket, and it is not my valid signature, because anytime you're being threatened to put your, it's not a valid signature. And I said, I did not promise to appear in court, and, I have, the whole scary letter, to them. They never put a warrant out for my arrest. Okay, because I didn't promise to appear. And I told him, I said, you put a bench warrant out for me, you're gonna have a lawsuit on your hands. But I put it in legal terms, I'm just giving you a general rundown of what happened. But it all works, and to this day, out of all of the lawsuits, like I said, I sued government 4 different times. No one, no attorney, nobody has ever rebutted anything in any of my books, any of my pleadings, anything. Nobody has ever joined, nobody has ever challenged the common law, because they can't. Because it's pure common sense. And people don't want to look stupid going against common sense. It's really easy to debate somebody that's trying to rebut common law, because common law is just pure common sense. And it makes them look stupid, so they don't say anything. And besides that, a lot of them, they're getting a paycheck, and they don't want to screw that paycheck. So anyway, I hope it's informative, and as I said, email me if you want those max of the law and anything else.